Good?
Yeah, I think you're good. It'll pop up in a minute.
I would like to call the Hamilton Central School District's organizational meeting held July 15th to order. I would ask that you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Corey, I'd like to swear you in for a re-elected board member, please.
Stand up.
Yeah, you want to come over here. Repeat after me, please. I, Corey Duclos, do solemnly swear
I, Corey Duclos, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of
and I will faithfully discharge the duties of
Office of Board Member of the Board of Education
Office of Board Member of the Board of Education
at the Hamilton Central School
of the Hamilton Central School
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Thank you. Sign.
Congratulations.
Best of my ability part's the more.
I would like to open the floor for nominations for office of president. Do I have a nomination for the president of Board of Education?
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Michelle Jacobson as board president for this school year.
I'll second.
Any other nominations? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
I'd like to open the floor for nominations for the office of vice president. Do I have a nomination for vice president for the Board of Education?
Okay. I'll nominate Jen unless somebody else is running for Jen?
A second.
Thank you.
Any other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So now we'll swear in Michelle and Jen.
Just come up together.
You can repeat after me. I, Michelle Jacobson,
I, Michelle Jacobson,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States of America
of the United States of America
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New York,
of the State of New York,
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of president
of the office of president
of the Board of Education
of the Board of Education
at the Hamilton Central School
at the Hamilton Central School
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Okay. Please. Thank you.
Thank you for reading slowly.
I, Jennifer Jones,
I, Jennifer Jones,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution
that I will support the Constitution
of the United States of America
of the United States of America
and the Constitution
and the Constitution
of the State of New York,
of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office
of the office
of Vice President
of Vice President
of the Board of Education
of the Board of Education
at the Hamilton Central School
at the Hamilton Central School
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Okay, right here, please. Okay, thank you.
So that takes us to the appointment of, school officers. Yep, school officers. A motion to approve the following school officers for the 2024-2025 school year is recommended by the superintendent. That is 3.1 through 3.16.
I'll move.
Second.
Any discussion on the district clerk, clerk pro temp, district treasurer, treasurer extracurricular activities, comptroller of extracurricular activities, tax collector, law enforcement unit, chief emergency officer, chemical hygiene officer, district-wide safety officer, freedom of information officer, Title 9, Section 504 ABA compliance officer, the data privacy and protection officer, the records access officer, records management appeals officer, attendance officer, borrowing and investments officer. I know I don't have to read those, but I feel like it just, yeah. No other discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. That takes us to other appointments and authorizations for 2024-2025 school year. I need a motion to approve the following other appointments and authorizations, which is 4.1 through 4.23 for the 2024-2025 school year as recommended by the superintendent.
I'll move.
Second?
Any discussion on custodian of petty cash, custodian of school lunch petty cash, budget transfers, 403B liaison, purchase agent, claims auditor, school attorney, school physician, mileage rate, wire transfer, asbestos designee, liaison for homeless children and youth, district auditor, bond counsel, committee on special education on preschool special education, and the 504 committee, the mental health, Madison Oneida Health Plan Consortium, Workers' Comp Consortium, Conference and Grants, AIDS Authorization, Workplace Violence Coordinator, Imperial Hearing Officer, Substitute Caller, Freed and Reduced Lunches. All those in favor?
Aye.
That takes us to appointments with board involvement for the 2024-2025 school year. So we'll start with the discussion, and so we can figure out who wants to do what this year. Who's going to serve on the committees for audit, and the subcommittees, the other committees as well. So start with the steering team representatives, and we'll just talk about it, and then we'll go back through and we can vote on that.
Okay. I like elementary steering committee. I'd be happy to do that again.
I'd be happy to stay on secondary.
Okay. I wouldn't mind participating in secondary if
Yeah.
if you're willing. I
Sure.
haven't done secondary yet, but
Yeah,
if you
no.
want to stay, you're welcome. Like, I'm not
Happy
trying to
to.
kick you off of it
I have one less meeting.
either. Okay. What about the audit committee? Do we want to keep it as whole committee or as a subcommittee?
I think it worked good leaving it as a whole.
Yeah, I
Everyone
don't see any
like-
problems with that.
Me neither.
Unless
And
Matt's complaining over it, no, he's fine.
Yeah.
Policy subcommittee.
I'm happy to stay there.
Yeah, I'd like to do the policy committee again as well.
I
I would love you to do that.
So thank you. The inclusivity committee.
I'm happy to stay on. If anybody else wants to take over, I'm happy to step down as well. There's a lot of work that's been done, but I'm also very keen on seeing the continuity of it. But if you're not doing the secondary, you want to do the inclusivity.
I think you probably enjoyed that then well. So if you're happy to stay there.
Yeah.
So you're stay on? Then the school board institute co-representatives.
I'm willing to stay on as that. I am curious why, so I asked this question if we need to, and I'm happy to share this duty. I'm happy to keep it as co-representatives, but it seems that not all schools have co-reps. So I'm just wondering if we want to just move that to just one person, because it does, like, even the one meeting that I missed, I was like, should I send somebody else? And Jim was like, no, it should just be you that comes to them. So it was kind of like confusing. So I didn't know if anybody else had any other information on any of that, but I'm happy to stay on as a co-rep or as the rep for that if we want to change it to just one person.
Were you the other rep before? Or did we not have a co-rep?
I think
I think
was.
Amanda was, but
And I
But
mean,
I was in the year before and I haven't done anything either, so.
yeah, I said, I think I'm on another committee,
And
but you
they'll-
didn't really need any.
Yeah,
help.
and they only put one person on the emails for all of it, so.
I think if we're gonna do co-representatives, and I don't know if we can make that change or not, but I would rather have 2 people on advocacy. I
Mm.
feel like that's,
Yes.
or, you know,
That's true.
you can't have 3, but like,
Yeah.
the more the merrier in the advocacy. If that's
I
something.
can
that
handle
you do.
SBI. Advocacy, I'd
Yeah.
love to stay on as that, but I'd love more help with that.
I can help with that for sure,
So we'll replace co-representative and just
unless
do
Lauren, you want to,
representative,
whichever.
If you're interested, I'd be happy to.
and then we'll do a co-rep and do Jen and Amanda for the NISBA. Does that sound right? I'm looking at Jody just to make sure we're.
Yeah, just do it.
I think with that, we can only deem one person, but maybe if we just did like, is it possible to do just one NISBA advocacy liaison and then can we add something else? Is like, I don't know, can we make up our own thing as like advocacy something? I don't know, or can we do it as a soft?
Well, I have,
That's a
you could
good
have
idea.
someone that,
subcommittee.
I represent our area for the NISBA DEI committee, so that's why.
Well, and I'm
You're
the-
on
That's true.
the advocacy and I'm doing that kind of.
That's what I'm saying, it's like kind of like soft people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I'm also now, I was just voted in as like a state rep or something like that for advocacy as well by them, but, I don't know.
Yeah, so do you think NISBA only allows one? Do we know?
Well, our committee, if it was 3, it would have to be.
Right, but I'm just wondering if we
But
can
it's not a
create our
committee
own
that
like
meets really, right?
internal
It's not a committee,
subcommittee.
Right? It's just
Right.
a
Right.
liaison, so.
I mean, we get a lot of stuff from them. I
Corey,
mean, I get
you do
inundated with
You do a
emails,
NISBA diversity?
Mhm.
so maybe we should add that as something
Mm.
to, is that something that there's a rep from each school
Area,
on?
each area.
Okay, so maybe we wouldn't put that, but.
Right. Well, let's try to do the co-rep, and if NISBA says we can't, like, the more we can get her on, like,
Yes,
emails
I'd love to
and
have
that
like
type
an
of stuff.
internal subcommittee even for like.
Just to help read through the emails and say,
Yeah.
this is what's important, and, you know,
Yeah,
maybe.
And going to the meetings, like, I feel like the more Hamilton voice we have.
that's where I would really like I'd love to always, I think we need to be at all these meetings and kind of like
Yeah.
dividing and conquering that, I
Yeah,
think would
maybe
be really great.
you two, part of the job is not just being the advocates, but you could assign us.
Like I can stay on, well, and I, like, if you want, I can stay on as the NISBA liaison,
Mhm.
but I think we need to have our own, like, internal initiatives to be able to, we need to be at all these events. Like,
Mhm.
we need to get out there a lot more. We need to go, like, to, like, lobby days and stuff like that. So, I don't, because but I think that goes beyond, like, NISBA. I think that involves, like, setting up meetings with our legislators, like, amongst ourselves and, you know, with
Mhm.
Bill. And so I think like I said, if just maybe one of us stays on as NISBA, but if we all
Or if we just
can make a.
say Amanda's our advocacy, like, just general
Yes.
advocacy
Yeah,
person.
I would love that.
Okay,
But
And
we all
then-
share the work.
yeah.
Yes.
Maybe you're just helping coordinate that for making sure it gets covered.
Getting our
Okay.
list there.
Yeah, you can figure out like who's gonna go,
To what day.
setting up local meetings and stuff like that. I think that would be great.
Okay,
And then, because NISBA and school board kind of integrates a little bit on that too, so it's like separate initiatives, but they integrate a little bit, so I think it's helpful to be in both of those roles, because I hear it from both sides.
Mhm.
But definitely, I can't do all the local legislator meetings and stuff like that, so I think that would be great if we added that.
okay.
So I think we covered them all. We added 2. We changed 1. So can I have a motion to approve the following appointments as we discussed, with board involvement for the 2024-2025 school year, as discussed by the Board of Education and recommended by the superintendent?
I'll move.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And thank you, everybody, for all the extra work. I need a motion to approve the following designations, 6-1 through 6-5 for 2024-2025 school year as recommended by the superintendent.
Second.
Any discussion on tax levying body, Dignity for All Students Act, designation of authorized signature on checks, school newspaper, depository for school funds.
No.
Bill, I just have a question with like the school newspaper. Does that also expands into like online stuff, not just paper? Okay, I thought so. I just needed to
Yep.
say that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
All those opposed? Motion to approve the following other school-related business, 7.1 through 7.5 for the 2024-2025 school year as recommended by the superintendent.
I'll move.
Second.
Any discussion on policies, cell phones, secondary and elementary student code of conduct, substitute compensation, and school board meeting dates?
Just making sure our substitute compensation is still competitive with the region.
It is.
Yeah.
Where is the code of conduct at this point?
Still in review.
Okay.
So we'll start the school year with our existing code
The
of
existing.
conduct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we do have to reaffirm that,
Yeah.
even if we're staying with it.
Okay.
That's the point now.
Do we think
Okay.
we'll stay with the old one throughout the entire school year?
Yeah, that'll give us an
So starting
opportunity.
about doing
Yeah.
it 25, 26? Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can I have a motion to adjourn the organizational meeting?
I'll move. A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I need to call the meeting of July 15th to order. We don't have to do the Pledge of Allegiance because we just did it. So is there any other items for consideration on this agenda?
No.
I need a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I do have one question, I guess. Did we say that this meeting was starting at 6? Or
We did
say
not.
immediately
Immediately following.
Okay. I need a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting on June 13th.
I'll move.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And that brings us to Mrs. Bossard and her students for the work-based learning program.
Hi guys, thanks for having us. We appreciate you giving us some time.
Thanks for being here.
This is, to start out, our work-based learning experiences here at Hamilton have to do with our CTE ag program. So students who are on our ag track can take 4 different agriculture classes with me, and their senior year or junior year sometimes. Their capstone class is a job shadowing work-based learning class. So no different than when students go to BOCES and they get that job shadowing experience at BOCES. It's in-house and it's tailored to what agricultural careers students really are interested in. So we've had different, 2 years ago we had 4 kids, last year we had 3 kids, this year we have 2 kids. It kind of ebbs and flows depending on what we have coming through. So each year we present to the board of places that our students have gone, experiences they had, and takeaways that they've had from this experience. In this entire program. So I would like to introduce Stephanie Bernard and Bryce Wright, who just completed the program, and they would love to share some things with you about their year in work-based learning.
Thanks for having us, everybody. So first and foremost, what we did was career exploration before we even went on job shadows, meaning we looked up kind of what we were interested in doing with our future careers and kind of implemented that into what we would be doing with job shadows. Job shadow and contact list, we made that. So we had one in the beginning of the year from Bozzard from past times that she had gone, but then we also kind of looked into our own things that we were interested in doing and contacts that we've had maybe from family members or friends just on the side. So what we did, before we had gone on the job shadow, after we made our contact list, we made our resumes, our cover letters, and references. This was key to bring out when we went on a job shadow, just to kind of make us feel more prepared and letting them know the business person that what we were interested in doing and kind of the background that we had.
So I don't know if you guys know, but interviewing is probably one of the scariest things, and I figured that out this year. So for BOCES, I'm going to BOCES next year for New Visions, and to get accepted, we had to do an interview. And I told Ms. Bozard, I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, like, can you help me out? And sure enough, she taught me everything I had learned and like what you have to do, do's and don'ts. So it's like how much you're supposed to talk, because I'll talk someone's ear off. Or do like when, like what are you supposed to say, don't say, talk about yourself, how much you're supposed to talk about yourself. So it was a really good opportunity to like learn about interviewing, because I never had the chance. And then also, before like we went out on job shadows, we'd have to get paperwork signed by Mr. Arquette, Ms. Kustai, Ms. Bozard, and our parents. We'd have to like, they would have to fill out every time before we went on there, just like to make sure we were actually going to like a job shadow. And so which was like, it's kind of just like keep you on your toes, because it's like you got to plan before, like where are you going and everything. And then for the job shadows, you got to make sure you show up on time. Like if you're on time, it's late, so always 15 minutes early, and make sure you're wearing the right like dress code. Like if you're going like to like a college, if you're visiting a college, or if you're going like on a construction site, like make sure you're wearing the right clothing. And then after we were done with the shadow, we would have to write a handwritten thank you card to every person. So the day we got back, we would write it and obviously mail it to them. And then after that, we would have to do a shadow reflection. So it's like everything you did, the job, like the career fields in that job, and like all the technology used, and everything you pretty much learned with that job shadow.
Okay, to start it off, so my very first job shadow I went on was to Morrisville College, and I got to shadow Bill Snyder. He works in the Division of Environmental and Renewable Resources School of Agriculture, Business, and Technology. The reason I went on this job shadow was because this was one of the two schools I was interested in going to, and so I applied there. I wanted to learn more about it and the things that they had available for me. They had really hands-on labs. They were 3 hours long, and they were very small and compact, getting to know your professor and the students in it as well, which I really liked about it. And I applied to SUNY Morrisville, and I got accepted, but more to come on that college things.
So the first job shadow I went on was with Jake Smith. He was an alum at Hamilton, so it was really cool to be able to talk about like when he went to school and how it's now, and like the sports and everything. It was really cool. So I went on 2 job shadows with Jake Smith, but the first one was more just like learning the basics, like how to like form up concrete, like what do you have to do before you can even start pouring, and like after, because like first like we started with forming up, and after we like unformed everything and everything that goes into it, and it's just not going in and pouring concrete. You just like you have to make sure everything's level, make sure like, rebar's in there, and like, you got all the equipment there to be able to do it. And big takeaway was just there's a lot more than just like pouring concrete. There's just like you have to like do like there's like 5 steps before pouring concrete. So it was really cool, and I never knew that going into it.
Another one that I went on was SUNY Cobleskill. So this is actually where I am going to college. I visited with Tess Southern, the 4-H Madison County advisor, and I got to go on a tour to Schohalle Berry Farms, and I got to present about that with some other 4-H members at dinner that night. The next day we toured around the college, and I got to go in the fishery, which was one of the largest trout fisheries they have on the East Coast, on the East, in college-based talk. And I got to talk with a fishery professor about majors and degrees and the routes I could take within their school, and that kind of helped me have more of an open-minded about this college and what made me really, really interested about it. I applied to SUNY Cobleskill, and I got in, and I will be attending this fall.
So my second job shadow was with paint construction, and when I was a little kid, I always thought this is what I was going to be doing, and like I always like had little play like excavators and everything, so it was really cool. But then like soon, like when I went there was a lot more hands work. It wasn't just like hop in a bulldozer or like in a skid steer and just like go like move dirt or dig a hole or like do something. There's a lot of like hands work, and that's what I did all day. It was with one of Sean Payne's foremen. I was just with him. We were digging holes. I had a rake in the hand the whole day, so it was just. I never realized like what it actually was. I thought I was just gonna go there and like sit in a dump truck all day and just talk to someone. It was gonna be a good time. But instead I got a rake, and as soon as I got there, it was just that's the whole day. So it was really cool to like realize that it's just not like, it's not what you think, and like there's always something else like into the job.
Next job shadow that I really was interested and had a great time with was a ride along with the DEC officer, Ricardo Grizzolini. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of him. I learned in this job how heavily involving people it is. A lot of it is being in the car, driving and patrolling within his area. He patrols about 3 areas just because of the shortage of DEC officers they have right now. I originally had thought that it was going to be a lot more outside, hands-on, kind of environmental type based things, but my mind was changed, and it was a really good opportunity that I got to have. He set me up to have a conversation with the wildlife biologist Ashley, and we got to talk about how she got to where she is, because I was interested in being a wildlife biologist for a little bit, and I learned that it's a lot of desk work, but also a good amount of being in the field, especially during hunting seasons, and yeah, it was a really good time.
So my second one with Jake was, it was a lot more of like pouring concrete, because that's what I really thought I was going there the first time, was pouring concrete, and you soon realize like, so you gotta like plan. So we poured like 70 yards that day. We were supposed to pour 100 yards, which is like a lot of concrete, and it was really cool because you use the different tools, make sure it's level, make sure it's smooth, because I guess that's the final product before you start building on it. So that's like, you gotta make sure it's like really like secure and like it's smooth. There's no like ridges in it, and also the big thing I learned in this job shadow, or the takeaway, was the concrete trucks start to break down, so you always got to plan ahead. Like if just something happens, you got to like, all right, where can I go next? Like I think the plant closed down is what he told me, so we were just like, what do we do now? Because like we have one more truck coming. We thought all day we were going to be pouring concrete, so instead like we went to a different job and started working there, forming up that job, so when the plant opens up, we can go there next and pour it. So it was really cool just to see like how people are planning ahead, and you never know like what you're actually going to like run into like on a day-to-day basis.
The next one up, I went to Utica Zoo. This was a really fun one. It was very wildlife animal based. It was all reptiles. It was in the back of the zoo. So I worked with animals that went to schools, and they got to teach students about different kinds of animals and reptiles, and about like how to handle them and care for them. What I did there was I cleaned cages. I got to nebulize a porcupine, which is a really cool experience. And I gave the reptiles enrichment tests. So for example, I got a box with newspaper and I sprayed perfume in it, and we put the possum in it just to see how he'd react to that smell. And it was super cool to see his reaction towards it.
So then another job shadow I went on was land surveying, which I learned kind of through the other job shadows I went on. So I thought it was like a really good opportunity to see what was into it, like into land surveying, because I love being outdoors, going through the woods, like walking around, and through land surveying, that's what you're always doing, finding property lines, and it's cool to see like what's actually like you're driving on the road, but like what's behind that hill, and you see like there's waterfalls or old cars that used to sit there like hundreds and hundreds of years ago. So it was a really cool opportunity. And with this survey, and I was just more like, it was with a farm pretty much, and we were just making sure that the houses weren't like mowing into the field, because they needed this like more hay land, and they didn't want these like houses to be taken away from their chance. So it was really cool. And the takeaway I learned was just like always keep your mind open. Like if you're going to college or don't go to college, like some people go for teaching and end up doing land surveying, and just never think like you can, if you go to college, you're going to be a teacher. Like there's so many good opportunities to come along with it, and just never like be afraid to take a chance. Whatever you do, just put your mind to it and work hard at whatever you're doing.
Another job shadow that I didn't expect to love as much as I did was going to a soil scientist in Marcy, New York. So I went with Amy Langner, who's a USDA soil scientist, who conveniently went to the same school as Bosner did, high school buddies. And I got to learn the different kinds of soils in different spots of New York, and like the different colors and how do I identify different kinds of soils. We talked a lot about the Farm Bill and like more specifically the crop production and the finance parts of it, because that has a lot to do with soil science as much as you wouldn't have expected that. It was really cool to learn about that. And I learned that soil scientists connect directly with farmers, and I had no idea how in-depth they are with farmers, and I'll talk more about that in a different slide. It focuses more on wetland violations. More specifically, in 1985, the Farm Bill was passed, the Food Security Act was passed, and that kind of affected a lot of the wetland violations towards soils and farmers and kind of things like that.
So this was a really interesting job. A job shadow went on with the project manager, actually right at Colgate, which was really cool because I got to see new builds that are happening. Like I looked at the plans for the new basketball. I don't know if you guys heard about the new basketball arena going up. So I got to see those and then walk through different buildings that they're working on. And Owen Hall was a really big project they were going on. And I sat through job meetings and everything and walked around the site, making sure everything was running smooth with Joe and Ray. And it was really cool opportunity to see. But I never realized how much paperwork actually was with it, and so many emails. Every hour he's going back to his desk and sitting 2 hours on his computer, emails, paperwork, planning ahead. And there was a lot of planning going into this because it's such a big project. There was so many deliveries coming in, so there was only one spot to unload. So it was just how would you plan? How are you going to plan ahead for these deliveries? And if there's not communication, then there's a domino effect because this one, if this doesn't shows up late, that means this one's going to sit there, and everyone needs materials and everything. So really cool opportunity to see everything that goes into a project and how much planning there is before you can even start digging into the ground, and just starting with how much money you're able to get and just able to run on that budget too, which is really cool because you just never even think about that when you walk into a building.
So another one that I loved was Van Hornsville Fish Hatchery with Becca Rogers, who's actually an HCS alum. I got to clean the trout ponds, I fed the fish, and I learned that there's different size fish pellets for different size fish, and for some reason that just never really crossed my mind. I had to count how many casualties there were each day, and I got to measure the average size per pound of fish in each pond, and as there was so much math, and I had no idea how much math there was involved in a fish hatchery, but it was really cool to see how they implemented it. And at the end of the day, it was just you put it back into a spreadsheet and you call it a day. And it was the easier math ones, which was very beneficial to me because I'm not a math person, but it's okay. It rained all day, which was honestly I had a great time. It was probably better than if it was hot because it would just be hot all day. And it was all hands-on work, which I loved. And it was just a really cool experience to have.
So I went with Luke Dowsland. This was a really fun job shadow. And it was really cool because I had no idea what I was getting into going to the town barn. And sure enough, it was such a small crew. There was 5 to 7 people, so everyone knew everyone. You're always talking to each other and about what you did last night. So it was really cool. And I never realized what actually went into the Hamilton Town Barn, and every time there's something new when you come in. So if there's a storm, you can you're out there cleaning up trees and they fell on power lines, or with Hamilton, New York, you never know when you're plowing snow or mowing lawns. I feel it could either go both ways now. So it's really cool because you never know what you're going to do on a daily basis. So you're just coming in just with an open mind, and it's all right, you're going up to pick up garbage, so that's your job, or you're going to sweep the road. So it was really cool opportunity to see what you actually do with the town.
So I went into a Women in STEAM Symposium job shadow. I met some really, really interesting women. I met a neuroscientist, an accountant, a CEO, and a sergeant, along with many other different careers. The woman sitting on the far right in the tan is the neuroscientist, and then the one in the green is the accountant. They talked about, what I got to listen to is how they talked about how they advocate for themselves and continue to grow their careers and become successful as women in STEAM. I got to go to booths talking about what the careers do and how STEAM involved those kinds of careers. And it was all about bringing young women into these career fields and having confidence in yourself to believe that you can do anything you put your mind to. I got to talk to a lot of young women. I got to sit at a table of panelists who got to talk, which was a really cool experience during sitting next to them at lunch. And it was a really good overall experience that I think should be open to a lot more people than it was at Hamilton.
So I was really interested in this job shadow. It was because in Ms. Bozer's class, I always working with wood and building projects, but I never knew how deep you can get into with wood. So when I went with Travis, he was really good at explaining everything, taught me step by step what you're gonna do, and just taught me every tool, and we built these big arcs, which was really cool, and we glued it all together, and just it was just cool. I never knew how much you could do with wood and carving wood, it was just a really cool opportunity, and Travis just like taught me a lot. And it was probably one of my favorite job shadows because I didn't know what I thought I was just like going in there and like no idea what I was doing, and sure enough I was like built like 3 big arcs, and I was gluing everything together, and it was another small crew, so you got to know everybody, which was really cool. And I thought that was a good opportunity, and they actually offered me a job at the end of like a summer like help around there, so it was really cool opportunity.
So another Cobble skill visit. So I don't know if you know this, but we had a student teacher this year, Miss Seitz, who graduated from Cobble School this year. So that was a fun little person that I got to know and got to meet. We got to sit on a class, which was an animal nutrition class, and I really loved it. It was a smaller class, and I got to talk to the professor a lot. We actually had some really fun, interesting conversations. Miss Seitz also took me to a Ducks Unlimited meeting. So for those of you who don't know, my brother went to ESF, and he was in the Ducks Unlimited organization, and this kind of sparked my interest in this. And when I went to the meeting, I met a lot of people who I had known prior from ESF, and I also made a lot of connections myself, which will be really awesome for me when I go there this fall. I met a lot of people who are in the wildlife science and environmental studies major, so I got to see the difference between those two majors and kind of the different benefits that you get from each of those. And I got to check out the dairy barn and the sheep and the goats, and it was really cool and just kind of helped spark my interest more, and it solidified me wanting to go to Cobble Skill.
So my last survey was with our last job shadow was with another surveyor, which was really cool. This one was completely different than my first because we were like breaking up, like there was one big property with probably 5 houses on there. So and they wanted to sell off the houses, so we were like putting property lines through like these different houses, and like really in depth how you have to go, because like if one house has a playground, you got to make sure you like the boundary goes behind the playground, and like you can't like put a property line between one house because obviously that wouldn't work. So just making sure like you have everything, gathering information, and he would go around and like would sketch a picture of it and just see like actually like, so like when he goes back to look at it, like you can see what's going on with it, and like it refreshes his mind, which I thought was really cool. It was just a good opportunity because there's just the 2 different sides of surveying. I just thought you always go out in the woods and do like a big property and find like the points of the property, but it was just you're able to go in such a small like little neighborhood and do like a bunch of different property lines.
Up next was a field day with Amy, the soil scientist, and Miranda, who's a resource conservationist. We went on 2 different sites. We got to test out soil to determine if the land was considered a wetland for farmers. These are the reason we went to these sites where farmers had put in a request to come check out and determine if it was a wetland, to see if they could put in roads or things like that. Farmers can request to take out trees on their land, but since if it's a wetland, you can't do that, hence the Farm Bill. And it was really cool. I also got to learn how to identify wetland plants. That kind of helps determine if you're struggling to see if it's a wetland or not. The plants can also help you identify that, which is really fun.
So we actually had to read books. We did not think this coming in. We thought we were just going to go on job shadows, and that's all we were going to do. But Ms. Foster assigned us books, and it was actually, the books were really interesting. Probably the 2 books I read from the first page to the end page. Don't tell Mr. Rose. It was really interesting books. This book was it was Mitch, and he was a college professor, and he was just like the impact he had on his students, and like how students would like reach out to him, and how ask him what should I do in this situation, and it was really cool because he had a time limit on how long he was gonna live. So it was just he was making up how much can he make of that time, and what can he do every day to memory moments with his family. And we had a living funeral, which was really cool. They had one in the book. So me and Steph did one together. We wrote about each other and went around and talked to different classes. We went to 5th grade, 6th grade, and we talked to Miss Foster's classes. It was really cool, and that was public speaking, which was a really, really scary thing. Not my forte, but it is what it is. And then we emailed Mitch, which was really cool, and just said how interesting his book was, and I just never thought we had conversations that we never thought we would have, and people don't have on a day-to-day basis. And then we would read 6 chapters, and Miss Foster would assign a task that we had to do, and just some of it was he really was interested in art and music, so we'd have to pick out our favorite songs and how they would relate to something. So it was a really cool book, and I'm glad I read it from the first page to the last page.
Last but certainly not least, was the last lecture by Randy Posh. This lecture was to recount lessons he had learned or had been taught throughout his life. So Randy has had pancreatic disease, and the book was about lessons that included the value of honest feedback, people before material things, humility, rising to the occasion, breaking down brick walls, and accepting reality. He actually wrote this book for his kids, but the lessons learned, the lessons that he wrote about really kind of helped us kind of have that in the back of our minds for our future, which was really cool. We also got to write a bucket list about what we wanted to do in our future, and as tricky as that one was, we figured it out and managed to crank out probably 15 things that we really, really wanted to do. And it was overall a really good experience and a really good book that I think should definitely be implemented into classes more. But that's our work-based learning.
That's our work-based learning group.
So if you have any questions, feel free to ask us or Roger.
I have a question. I was wondering, was there any way, in what ways did the experiences you had out on the job change your understanding, your perception of the classes you were taking while you were here?
For me, it definitely it made me want to go to BOCES next year, which I did not think I was going to want to, because now it gives me opportunities to go on a long internship with some people I realized that I actually was interested in. So it definitely impacted me on going to BOCES, because it was a 50-50 chance and more hands-on at classes. I definitely think will help me with the career I wanted.
When I did it, I was really kind of set on one career field, and doing this helped me understand that there was a lot more opportunities than what I had originally thought. And the things that I thought I was interested, I learned that there was something different that I could have learned, and that there's some different career field that I would have had a better opportunity in, or that I'd have more fun in, and that would benefit my future more. So yeah. Thanks everybody.
I have
Thank
a
you.
question.
Question here?
I have a question. Have you, this presentation is really great. Have you given this presentation to other students or kids in other grades?
We have not.
No, this is
This is our first time.
Yes.
We actually gave this one.
We've practiced it a few times, just not in front of other classes
Yeah.
and stuff. We just never really had it
I feel like 45 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's very informative, very inspiring. I think other kids might find it interesting as well.
Yeah, I do think it would be an interesting thing to present to younger students so that they understand what it would be that they're getting into and why it made such an impact on your lives. Because, like you said, you didn't know what those days were going to be, and some things you liked and some things you didn't, and some things were completely different than what you thought. And to show that to other students from a student perspective, I think would add a touch that would be really important to some students, to everybody.
Well, I think the overall value of work-based learning experiences is important to share.
Absolutely.
I love that you guys had so many experiences. When you started, it seemed like you had 2 each. That's where I
And then they kept
and then
Yeah.
you kept going. I'm like, oh my goodness.
That's why I was like, oh, there's more.
And I said, where did you
And I
find the
know,
time? Yeah.
standing up here is difficult, and presenting in public is difficult, but you both did a wonderful job.
Great.
We're really proud of you guys.
Bryce, will you share with the board what your plans are for BOCES next year?
Yeah, so I'm going to New Visions and Professions, so it's more focused on your career. There's 3 different ones. There's allied health, then there's another one more I don't really know, it's more military force or police force, so I'm pretty sure that's it, but I'm going to Professions, so it's more the person knows they're focused on the career path. So I'm shadowing with someone in town as a construction person with wood and a local person, so it was a really good opportunity. And I actually, it's hard to get into. There's 60 people trying out for 20 seats, so you have to write a whole essay, answer a bunch of questions, then go in for an interview. And it was really I never thought of it. I thought you just write the essay and they're gonna be all right, you're in or not. So it was a really cool opportunity. And I'm actually really excited for it. And this helped me decide what I want to do, because I could be doing heavy equipment, but now I'm doing construction. But it all relates to each other, so I'm very excited for it.
pretty rigorous selection process.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
very
hard.
competitive.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very competitive.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And I think that's where our work-based program, our work-based learning program is a little different and unique, is that they would go on one and then they would come back, and it's okay not to love something, or like Steph was alluding to, like she went to a couple that she was like dead set, thought she was going to like love, not that she didn't like them at all, but, and then she came back and then she, you know, I would say like, what about a fish hatchery? Oh, I don't know, and then she would go to it and be able to experience those kind of things, and I think that's what's unique about ours, is because we can pivot and try those things, and they can go on to multiple ones. We're at, you know, BOCES, they're at one for the whole year, you know, and then sometimes people don't mesh, and sometimes things go astray or different, and they could keep going back to some that made sense, like the Joe Inmans or the Jake Smiths, you know, to see multiple things, but we could also break it up and do different things. So I think that hands-on piece and getting out of the classroom, and we talk about those kind of things, but really actually diving in and having those opportunities is imperative to our kids. So I'm happy. It's one of my favorite classes to be able to teach.
Especially this year.
Oh, especially this year. Yeah, especially this year.
Well, I think it's great too, before you like settle on a career and then end up being miserable, or before you invest in college all this money to like fail out your first semester because you're like, oh my gosh, I hate this. Like, this is like, this
And I
is
think
This
that's
dog forces us into a lot. Like, I always thought I would be going to like a woodworking place, and she's like, let's try it out, let's just give it a chance. And if you don't like it, you don't like it. It's only for a day, so like if you're doing this your whole life, like,
yeah.
then you realize like it's not actually like what you want to do. So it's a good opportunity.
And I think they both deserve a shout out. Steph obviously does a lot of FFA public speaking with me, so she is more comfortable. Bryce, prior to here, was not very comfortable public speaking, but he has come a really, really long way.
Well, we
And
wouldn't
it's
have known if we
Really,
didn't know.
You
really
did
has
incredible.
grown a lot this past year.
He's now going to be the first speaker in forum.
In more ways than next time.
Hey,
He's trying to get me to rhyme what we talked about. Are you kidding me?
No shot.
But really, truly, I mean, in growing in ways without like talking about public speaking and doing public speaking. And so I think that, you know, they both deserve, you know, certainly a big applause for that, because they really did work really hard in this class. This is a lot more, you know, than you think, and I think that they've both grown leaps and bounds this year. So I'll miss both of them. Well, I'll miss Steph next year. I'll see Bryce. But
Great job.
Great job, guys.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you
So
to
awesome.
the sponsored and to all of the hosts that you had, your job hosts.
Yes.
I mean, it's wonderful that you can connect with that many people that are willing to give our wonderful students a chance to spend a day and learn their trades. So thank you to everybody. Thanks for being here in the summer.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Good luck in
That was awesome.
Copa skill.
it was also
And you guys are welcome to stay, but
You're also welcome to leave.
Thanks for
See ya.
having us, guys.
but if you leave, we won't hold it against
Thank
you.
Bye, guys.
Hold on one second.
That's such a cool
Come back to it.
opportunity. That's great.
Just need 1 second.
Like, I wish I had done that before I was in my 30s. It's
We'll get going again in just a second. Just checking on one thing.
That was great.
We're just checking on something from the board meeting. Just double checking something. Okay, thank you. That takes us to the consent agenda, which is 4.1 through 4.6. Can I have a motion to approve the following consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent?
I'll move. One second.
Any discussion on the consent agenda? All those in favor?
Bye.
That brings us to community participation. There's nothing online at the moment, but there's somebody in the room. If you'd like to come forward now, you can. Oh. So we'll move on since it's not today. We will move to personnel. I need a motion to accept the resignation of Kelly West, part-time teacher aide, effective June 25th, 2024, as recommended by the superintendent, with sincere appreciation for services rendered to the district.
I'll move.
Second?
Any discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to approve a one-year leave of absence for Renee Merck as an elementary teacher effective September 1, 2024 through June 30, 2025, as recommended by the elementary principal and superintendent.
I'll move.
Second.
Any discussion would be an executive session, although our next motion will have more discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to approve Renee Merck as a teacher on special assignment for the social, emotional learning, and family engagement position effective September 1, 2024 through June 30, 2025, as recommended by the elementary principal and superintendent.
I'll move.
Second?
Any discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Need a motion to approve the following coordinators for the 2024-2025 school year as recommended by the principals and the superintendent.
Part-time.
No,
Part-time.
part-time.
No, sorry, I'll do that one next.
Okay.
I'll move.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion to approve the part-time positions as provided for the 2024-2025 school year.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry, thank you for catching that. I need a motion to approve Connor Carroll as a 4-year probationary appointment as a secondary math teacher in the 10-year area of mathematics, effective September 1, 2024 through August 31st, 2028, as provided and recommended by the secondary principal and the superintendent.
I'll move.
Second?
Discussion would be an executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to approve the following fall coaches for the 2024-2025 school year as presented, contingent upon significant participants, as recommended by the superintendent.
I'll move.
Second?
Any discussion?
Numbers look good for all levels.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to approve the recommendation of the committees on special education and preschool special education.
I'll move.
Second?
Discussion would be held in executive session. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Discussion, the district emergency response plan for 2024-2025 needs to be reviewed and discussed. It will be on the August BOE agenda for action.
Mhm. So it's just our annual review of our emergency response plan. District-wide, there's an elementary district plan, or an elementary building plan and a secondary building plan. This is the district plan that's required by New York State to be reviewed every year. No major changes.
So we're required to have a 30-day open comment period, so this is very much a district-wide boilerplate plan that, frankly, most districts probably use. There's a 30-day window before we can formally approve it. And each, for us, elementary and secondary building level plans are the ones that are much more specific, with specific actions and reactions and protocols that are not. And this may change too. This is often dictated by changes at the state level, so, but no changes from last year.
And we have 30 days between tonight and our next meeting.
Mhm.
Figured you'd have that.
Yep.
Other discussion? We will just bring that as a motion next month.
Mhm.
Any comments, please send Matt and Bill's way. Public has comments. Motion to approve the following non-resident tuition rate at $6,633 and the list of the pre-existing students for the 2024-2025 school year.
I'll move.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I need a motion to accept the following monetary donations with appreciation and increase the budget by these amounts as recommended by the budget manager, the business manager, and the superintendent.
Second.
Any discussion?
Thank you very much.
Thanks for the Hamilton Chamber of Commerce.
This was from the proceeds from their first annual.
On the-
Or
Or 5K or
Yeah.
whatever, yeah.
Yep.
On Saturday.
Yep.
So these are the chosen beneficiary, along with the chamber to benefit from that. So
They're expecting it to grow in years to come too,
Very
Yeah.
so.
successful event.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
good.
Wonderful. Well, thank you.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That brings us to the superintendent's report.
I have three things I'd like to share with you. First is, I just want for information purposes only, Mark, Chris, and I had a very productive meeting with a group of parents who are interested in promoting an away for the day cell phone policy in both the elementary and middle school. We met with them last week. Was it last week, Chris? Yeah, last week. And through the conversation, really, the question was, the educational value of cell phones in both the elementary and middle school. And was there educational value for students to have their cell phones on their property throughout the day? And the consensus was no, that there isn't. So we discussed that further, and we're not alone in this investigation of this. The national trend is to move to away for the day policies. Actually, this morning, Governor Hochul started her listening series throughout the state, where she is looking at providing or implementing a statewide ban on cell phones in schools and an away for the day policy that she is going to propose to the legislation to present to the senators and legislators in December for implementation in January. NISA is endorsing that. NISA is the state union for teachers. They are also endorsing an away for the day policy for schools with some local control. So more to come on that. Our next steps are we're going to have middle school teachers we're inviting in to meet with the administrative team and this group July 31st to continue the discussions about what that would look like here. So a very good meeting, very productive, a lot of good conversations on both sides and logistics of what that would look like, what that would look like for students that have social emotional needs, and working that in, and students with special needs that may have some restrictions in their IEPs. So there's a lot logistically to work out that we are discussing. So just an update on that. I thought it was a very productive meeting.
Are you going to do a notice to parents so that other people can join that meeting, or is it just that small group?
That's just that small group, and then what we'll do is we'll probably have a public information session open to the entire district, and whoever wants to come and voice their concerns, either pro or against, and an opportunity just to listen and move forward. So, Chris, anything I missed or you'd like to add?
No, I don't think so. Like you said, it was a really great conversation. Everybody is coming at it with the best interests of the students and the whole community in mind. And it's really sort of rapidly evolving. It's funny how the tide is turning. Because I remember 10 years ago, the phone was going to be the great equalizer for all students who didn't have access to technology. It's turned into something else.
So Bill, you said cell phones, is it like electronic devices in general, or are you just trying to address cell phones? Like, is it including like smartwatches?
Smartwatches,
and
earbuds, the whole.
iPads, so.
Yeah, unless it's a school
issued.
School issued or school endorsed, because we do allow some students to bring their own laptops in. So that's logistically what we'd have to kind of take
Yeah,
into
and
consideration.
don't a lot of the teachers too ask for headphones and things like that to be brought in?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mhm.
okay.
So a lot of logistical things to work through, but next steps.
Yeah, I was gonna tell you, the NISBA has a podcast they put out.
Listen
and
to
did
it.
you listen to that? There was an interview with the Vestal School District.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I like the conclusions they came to,
I-
but it was interesting, the process that they went through and
Mhm.
kind of some of the concerns they had. And
Yeah.
it's a very different school district and a different outcome with what they decided with, but
Mhm.
it might be useful for somebody on the team, maybe Chris, it might be for you especially to listen to see how.
It's only like
how do they
20-25
navigate some of
minutes.
this? Yeah, it wasn't
Mhm.
I
very
listened to it in
long
the
at all.
car.
Yeah.
Well, I know
Nice to-
Sherburne-Oval is going through the process as well, and they just had a public information session with their community, working through the process as well. So a lot of districts are moving to and away for the day. What that looks like in individual districts, I don't know. But I think there's going to be some flexibility, but it sounds like the governor is going to issue a statewide restriction.
How is that working with like faculty and staff?
So they would be included as well. We would want to set expectations that, during instructional time, cell phones are away. We should be modeling that behavior as well. Second, we had our CSO meeting on Friday, and we had the opportunity, Patrick Mannion, who is the newest regent in the state of New York, came and visited with us and had a really candid discussion about foundation aid, about school issues, cell phones, mental health crisis. So it was an opportunity to have a regent actually sit in front of us and have an open conversation about the issues that our region is facing, and really productive. He offered to come to a meeting if we would like. He is not the regent for Madison County. Regent Mittler is our regent. She could not attend the meeting for personal reasons, so, but she has offered to come as well. So I'll be setting a time up that we can all sit with either both or one of the regents to have a discussion. And I think we should take advantage of that because he has an understanding of local districts and our region. So it's a good opportunity for us.
Yeah.
It's great.
That might be, I'd be happy if that was separate, not just like lumped into another board meeting, but
Yeah.
if we had a separate meeting.
Whether it's a
Yeah, I love that
workshop
too.
or, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then lastly, on June 28th, Governor Hochul did sign into law the new APPR legislation. So we're waiting from her office and from NYSID to put out the parameters and guidelines that we are going to be working under. So now that it's official, we'll reconvene the APPR committee in September and start moving that process along. So in 2025-26, we'll have a new APPR plan ready for implementation, which is exciting.
Nice.
Yeah, and the three areas are local flexibility and design, emphasis on professional learning and growth, and then the timeline for the plan. So, good news.
That's great.
Anything else?
Oh, that's it. Any questions for me?
That brings us to the business manager report.
Thank you. A couple things. First, update on electric school buses. We've completed our fleet study with a company called Polera, which is a New York State approved company, and also through NYSERDA. Fortunately for us, we are now on a list of qualifying school districts to have our current work to be fully funded through NYSERDA grants. So our fleet study was done and completed this spring. We are now transitioning towards our fleet electrification plan, which is sort of step 2. So in the fleet study, they simply look at your buses, your routes, and they tell you what buses you would need in your fleet in order to complete your routes as is. The next part, which is phase 2, is the electrification plan, is when they work with the district, with the local utility to determine what the current power sources and load capabilities are, and match that up with your fleet, what they discovered in the fleet study, to begin to formulate a plan. So I actually spoke to the representative today from Polera. There's a number of school districts in this recent round through NYSERDA that are going to be funded. So we submitted our commitment letter about 5 weeks ago. Since that Hilaire has been working with NYSERDA in preparing to work with school districts to make sure that those electrification plans and those studies are done in accordance with the state's guidelines, so they qualify for the funding. So she said we could probably expect to hear from them within a week or two to get the ball rolling with this next phase of the study, with that being completed sometime during the fall. So Bill and I met with Sung, and I think once Sung had a very good idea, it's something that we certainly intend to do, is to take advantage of some of the local resources we have here and people that have knowledge of this stuff, certainly more than Bill and I do. Once this second phase is complete, as we really start to move forward. Also effective August 1st, so in a couple weeks, there's a new state requirement for reporting of all school districts to report their progress on an annual basis of what they're doing to make progress and working towards ultimately what is still in place as a 2027 deadline for converting to all electric school buses from that point on. So we're in good shape. This spring completing the fleet study, and now phase 2 is the electrification study. So more to come on that. Probably, I would think September or October.
I'm glad we got out on the beginning of that.
Yeah.
Yep. CNS, just a quick update on that. We continue to have a real strong partnership with CNS, and as you know, we are working towards expanding that partnership by giving them a little more space through a rental agreement in our building. We are close to having a final agreement that will be presented to the board for approval for them to move into the terrace level of the elementary building. It'll be basically 5 classrooms, but if you're familiar with that area, it's really kind of 4.5 classrooms, once more probably suited for an office space or small group breakout. They currently have 2 full classrooms upstairs, so it's a bit of an expansion in the amount of space.
But they won't have the upstairs.
Correct. Yep. So they will be confined to the terrace level, which is beneficial in a lot of ways, both for them and the way they operate, but also for us and the way we operate, and having them separate, for school safety, for access, for all those reasons. So we are nearing completion of agreement. I think we have all of the principal terms and conditions in agreement. We're having some legal people look those things over, and they'll be moving in before the end of the summer. So it's exciting news. Lastly, one thing I want to talk about, I know you adopted the tax levy in the consent agenda. One of the things I do every year is I kind of look at that. There's a lot of numbers, a lot of calculations. It can be very complicated, confusing. But I always compare it to the prior year. And one of the things I wanted to point out as we prepare for the distribution of the tax levy, the mailing out of tax bills in September, is some figures on this form that are continue to indicate the concerning trend in this community as far as the tax burden in this community. Within our 5 municipalities, the equalization rate in all 5 of them dropped from last year. So what that is that's the state's way of saying that the assessments in those municipalities are not keeping up with the market values based on market trends. The Hamilton equalization rate dropped most significantly. So last year was at 99%. So that was, I think it was 2 years ago, there was the reassessment done throughout the whole municipality. That the equalization rate last year is at 99%. So what that means is collectively the town of Hamilton, the assessed value of all the properties in Hamilton reflects 99% of its true value. So it's pretty close to being equalized. If you look this year, it dropped to 85.7%, which is significant. So while the amount of assessed property, the assessed value of property district-wide only went up 1%, about $4.5 million, the true value, based on those equalization rates dropping, increased almost 13%, 12.84%. So what that means is there's sort of an inverse relationship. Our tax rate continues to go down. I believe the first time in my memory here, our tax rate, true tax rate, is down below $15 per thousand. The tax rate dropped almost 8%. However, when we look at, you always hear me talk about individual tax bills within the municipalities, our levy is going up 4%. So the total amount of money that we're collecting, because of that drop in the equalization rate in the town of Hamilton, Hamilton is going to bear the brunt of that tax increase. So Debbie Curley, Jody, Bill, and I, we know this. People come in to pay their taxes. They will often come in and say, what happened to the 4% increase? How come my taxes were going up 9%? The reason for that this year will be because that equalization rate dropping in the town of Hamilton. So the rate on assessed value for the town of Hamilton is going up about 6.5%. So if everything was equal, and when I say everything, I mean exemptions, star exemptions, and the other type of exemptions people may qualify for, if everything was equal, the same as last year, in the aggregate, the town of Hamilton could expect to see a 6.5% increase in their taxes based on the levy. Now again, even within Hamilton, that's going to fluctuate significantly. But in general, the town of Hamilton is going to bear the brunt of that tax levy increase because of the market trend with real estate. And we talk about it all the time at these budget coffees and in preparation of this. It's all part of this concerning trend with what's happening with the property values, with our wealth, and that wealth that's measured on a per pupil basis. This is just further evidence that that continues to happen. So I just wanted to point that out. These are all things, with the exception of the levy increase, that are out of our control. We don't have control over that. We, meaning us, with our recommendation, and you as the board, with the budget adoption, determine the levy increase. But all these other factors are out of our control. They continue to trend in concerning directions. Just wanted to point that out.
Thank you.
We'll get Debbie ready for some time. That's all I got.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Matt.
Questions?
Thanks,
Good?
Matt.
Thanks.
Thank you.
It's always fun to go after Matt. He always brings it down. Steering committees, elementary, secondary, and then the inclusivity committee. So we'll just go down the line.
We have not met
Nothing?
since last time.
Nothing.
Nothing? Any inclusivity?
Have not met,
Okay.
but
I'm just gonna write summer, have not met.
there are some new names that I'd like to recommend for the inclusivity committee. I know the group kind of started out a certain size last school year, and because of personal schedules and things like that, we ended up with a smaller group at the end of the year. So I'd like to send you some recommendations for names.
Yeah.
And I'll do the same for the idea that I had for the following the EV study. So
Yeah.
once this electrification study is done, just like Matt had mentioned, I think we have some great local experts who would love to participate and just kind of provide some insight and help us kind of get a better handle on what the EV studies are telling us, and put us in a better position to be prepared for the chargers and the bus routes and things like that. So I have some names that I have in mind. I'll send those to Bill as well, and then if that's okay with you guys, and you guys have other names you want to throw in there, I think that would be great.
I think it would be important too, I'm going to put Corey on the spot here, but as our state DEI representative, that you serve on the inclusivity committee as well. I know our policy says a board member, but I think if you're willing, we should probably amend that policy and include you. I mean, it makes sense that you're on the state DEI committee, that you serve on our.
Yeah, people don't have any
I
problem
agree with that.
too.
Yeah.
I think it's.
Well, you guys bring the policy next time, we'll amend it. and then we can add,
Yeah,
like, let's do the
Yeah.
policy with
I think that's great.
amendment.
if you're willing, I think
Yeah.
that'd be great.
Especially, well, I'm down one committee anyway, so.
Yeah, yeah.
You thought you were that.
Just kidding. Advocacy update?
Not a lot. There was the Foundation Aid Study webinar. I don't know.
I was there. You also, did you go to this?
The webinar, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
It was pretty interesting. I know I started texting Bill and I was like, that was the first time I had ever seen that really big calculation for how our foundation aid is calculated, and I was like, blew my mind. So, I mean, we've already kind of discussed. I think we need to be so much more in the forefront, especially as unique as our district is. We're very much always lumped in this category. I think even like last month in Tinsey's presentation, I think he very much alluded to that. And I think we're so unique that we can't just be lumped in with all our surrounding districts. We need to be much more out there.
I copied the chat from the meeting and I put it in, I'll try to share with everybody, but one thing from there, there were a lot of concerns I think that were shared that I saw in there. There were also like a surprising amount of support for district consolidations, I think from districts that don't understand what that means for
I saw that
small
too.
rural districts. And I think that's something that we should need to make sure
Yeah.
people understand what the ramifications of that could be for a district. Now you've got this much bigger area and
Yeah.
the loss of local control there, so.
I've been hearing that word a lot amongst some very close local school districts again too. So something to
Mhm.
keep in mind.
And Corey and I are going to something in August, the beginning of
Yeah.
August.
So it's one of the sessions, open sessions they
Public
have,
hearing.
the public hearings, and so we can.
Yeah, and if either one of you for whatever reason can't make it, I'm happy to fill in one of those spots.
That's in Binghamton, correct?
No, we're
It's the one in,
Oneana direction.
Yeah,
yeah, it's right by Oneana,
Okay.
Lawrence.
Lawrence.
yeah.
I'll be watching that online as well.
Now you told me that, I'll be even more nervous. We have to speak. Board,
I know they mentioned that it would be available online. I don't know if, I haven't seen a link yet, but
Okay.
if I
Well,
do
if
see it,
anybody
I'll
sees that,
share
let's
it.
just make sure
I
we
would like
share it
it
amongst
too,
yeah.
ourselves. Yeah, that would be great.
board update, so we had talked, we've talked a bunch in the last 6 months about conferences and going to these things and this advocacy thing, and it all ends up costing money in some shape or form. In the past, we've talked about how important we felt, and I just feel strongly about this, but going to the NISBA convention, all of us together, and how much that brings back to our district, how much it helps us as board members, all of that. But now there are other things that are kind of that should take up time and space as well. And so I think discussing or maybe starting a spreadsheet for us so that we can keep track of what's out there. And if it's something we think is important and you put your name next to it if you want to go, and somebody can put it as an alternate, and so that we can instead of sending 6 people to NISBA, maybe we send 2 to NISBA and 1 to this and 1 to that and 1 to that. And so we're spreading out the funds to be more, budget conscious as well. I think in the past, we haven't gone to extra things. And so all of us going to NISBA was being budget conscious because we really didn't spend much other money as a board ourselves. But now there are things to do that are really important as we look at buses and advocacy and foundation aid and all of these things that are starting to come up. So I just wanted to have a conversation about that and see if that feeling was felt, or if I'm in my own place, or whatever. So this was the time to talk about it. So.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea to kind of, it'll help us to look ahead as well and plan. We're going to the NISBA Leadership Conference this
And
week.
law conference.
And law conference as well. So that's already time spent, money spent. Yeah, unless, and I think you're right that there's a lot of sort of important discussions that are happening that we need to be a part of. And that's not all happening at the annual NISBA conference. As much as I'd like to go again, I think, you know, if I'm sort of participating in these other things, I don't feel like that's the most important conference that I need to go to.
And especially this year it's in New York City again,
Yeah.
which I think we usually skip those.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will say that, but budget-wise, Jody and I looked, and it actually wouldn't cost us, but it would be pretty similar as last
Buffalo
year
was expensive.
for this
Yeah.
year,
Mhm.
but it's expensive. I think going last year was not a bad choice on our part. I think we got a lot out of it. However, since then, we've started seeing all these other things that are red flags for us to want to go to. So if we start a spreadsheet, and we can do, you know, we can add to it obviously, but, you know, put a date in there of when it is, whether it's virtual or not, cost of it, extra cost for hotel and things of that type of thing. Who would be an alternate so that we know, like, okay, I'm signing up, and then something comes up, I could say, Jen, I knew you wanted to go to this, now I can't, why don't you go type of a thing.
That's a good idea.
And down the line type of
Yeah,
thing.
I think it's good planning. And also, I mean, if the funds are there and if it works out that we can all go to the NISBA conference in New York, I mean, I'll still go. I think it's a good opportunity also to kind of get a barometer on what, it's not, I mean, we're bumping into other school like officials, board members and
Yes.
things like that, right? So that's, I think that, and it's the only place that where like everybody's congregating, so that, there are a lot of benefits to that event.
Yeah. No, I don't think that that's a bad event, but I just wonder if it's a one-person event, or is it a six-person event type of thing, or two people, depending on if we want one board member, if you want to go, you go.
Mhm.
We're not saying that you can't go to these things too, but just if we look at the five of us, trying to kind of spread the wealth a little bit on all of these things that we're going to do in the coming year and see how it goes.
See how it goes, yeah.
And then if we hate it next year, we can change and do it differently again, but.
I think it would be helpful to look at the year and say like exactly how much are we talking about, and you know what exactly is the registration fee, because it's, and like how many people are driving, are we all riding together, like, I mean, I'll use the NISBA conference, obviously if all of us go, you need a little bit of a bigger house, but maybe trying to consolidate a
more
little
hotel
bit there,
rooms, right,
or more hotel rooms, things like that. But being able to be more open there, and, I mean, it's not really gonna cost any more transportation-wise if we all ride together, but really being able to look at that and say exactly what is there. Because it might seem like there's like all these things, but maybe we'll look at it and it'll be like, oh, it's 7 things and 3 of them are free, and we can really do this, but it's, right now, it's just like all these pieces, so, and I'm really happy that you guys, I really wanted to go to that leadership conference and I can't, so I'm really glad that we're gonna have representation there, it looks really good.
And I,
Very good.
if we ever want to do something and you're doing that, if you're like, I don't think we have the budget for that, I'm not gonna feel offended.
Yeah.
Right.
But I
We'll
think
tell you.
having.
Or even if it's
Yeah.
just, you know.
I think having the
well, we
spreadsheet
could've-
will help us
Yeah.
Yeah, we started.
instead of one-off.
Or, you know,
Yes.
we could front the fee for the conference, but not necessarily a hotel room or something.
Yeah.
Right.
That
Yeah.
it's left up to us, that's.
We can do that.
Or even being able to say, okay, we'll get like one
One person.
room for Michelle, Amanda, and Jen, and if you really want your own room, then you have to pay for that, or like, just being able to be a little bit more open on those conversations, I think.
Sure.
Okay, well, Jody and I will work on like a spreadsheet and start something that we
Sounds
can
good.
keep an eye on. And if it's a Google sheet, we can all set it so that if there's a change made, it notifies, you know, you can all set up your own notifications so that you know what goes in it, and as we see things, we can just start listing them. And whether you want to go or if you just think it's important for somebody to go, you know, you can put it down with all the advocacy things you see, you don't have to go to them all, but you can put it down, and I'm like, oh, yeah, and I can sign up for it.
Perfect. I do think, like, especially for NISBA convention and things like that, we should have, let's really get going on this, maybe discuss it at the next meeting, because I do see things are starting to fill up, and I think
Yeah.
it's just gonna become more limited as we wait, the longer we wait.
So that was fine. Board conferences and expenditures topic. Anything else under board update for anybody? That opens community participation again. If anybody is so inclined, they may come to the front and speak. Please follow our protocol. Seeing nobody move at the moment and nobody online, I will move us forward. We are going to go to executive session. There will be no vote after executive session, so we'll not come back online. I need a motion to adjourn to executive session to discuss matters pertaining to the employment history of a particular person.
I'll move.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.